9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Liftoff.
Pitching downrange.
M1D chamber pressure is nominal.
Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center, carrying our OneWeb1 payload. Now during ascent, we will tilt the engines, technically called gimbaling, and that'll turn the rocket horizontally slightly in what we call a gravity turn.
Nominal power and telemetry.
So we're still going up, but we're also going horizontally away from the launch pad. You can see a beautiful sunset view of that ascent of Falcon 9.
Vehicle supersonic.
Now in just a couple minutes, we will be throttling the engines down in preparation for max Q, or the maximum aerodynamic pressure.
Max Q.
We just passed through that moment. Now the first stage, or any rocket, typically needs to go about 17,500 miles per hour horizontally in order to avoid being pulled back down to Earth and actually make it into orbit. So you can keep an eye on that stage 1 telemetry on that bottom left-hand side of your screen. Looks like we're going about 2,500 miles per hour right now and increasing rapidly. In a little under a minute here, we will have 5 events coming up in quick succession. So it'll start with main engine cutoff of the first stage, followed by stage separation, a stage 1 flip as it prepares to do the boost back burn, second engine startup 1, where the second stage MVAC engine will ignite, and then the start of that first stage boost back burn. Beautiful views from that camera tracking the Falcon 9. Now we're coming up for main engine cutoff in just a few seconds, and watch out for those 5 events.
Nico.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC ignition.
Boost back startup.
Wow, what an incredible view. There you heard and you see in these incredible views from Falcon 9 first and second stages, that main engine cutoff, stage separation, the first stage flip, second engine startup, and that boost back burn where the plumes from that first and second stage were creating that beautiful light show in the sky. There is that start of our first stage landing burn.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Really incredible views from the first stage.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Liftoff.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Pad 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, carrying the iSpace Series 1 lunar lander. During ascent, we tilt the engines, which we call gimbaling, and that turns the rocket horizontally. And that's what we call a gravity turn. We are still
Telemetry is nominal.
We are still going up, but we are also heading horizontally away from the launch pad. The rocket typically needs to go 17,000...
Vehicle supersonic.
Great call-outs there. The rocket typically needs to go 17,500 miles per hour horizontally in order to avoid being pulled back down to Earth and get
Max
into
Q.
orbit. And we just heard a call-out for Max Q. That is maximum dynamic pressure. This is the largest structural load that the vehicle sees on ascent. Now that we're past the period of Max Q, or maximum dynamic pressure, we
Engine chill.
do have 5 events coming up in quick succession. That'll be MECO, stage separation, stage 1 flip, SES1, and then the boost back burn on the first stage will begin. Again, MECO is where all 9 of those engines that you see lit up on your screen, those will shut down. That helps slow the stage down in preparation for stage separation. Then the first stage will do a flip in order to make its way back to its landing zone today on land, followed by SES1, or second stage engine start 1 on the second stage. That's where the MVAC engine will ignite, and then the boost back burn will also begin on the first stage. Those events are coming up here in just a few seconds.
Stage separation confirmed.
And back ignition.
Stage 1 boost back startup.
Some really cool views there. We just had MECO stage separation. You could see the stage 1 flipping in the background of the MVAC view, and an awesome view of the first stage boost back burn there. Awesome views. Again, that was MECO stage separation, stage 1 flip, SES1, that's the MVAC engine igniting. There you can see that on your right-hand screen. Stage 1 is currently in its boost back burn.
Bearing separation confirmed.
And there you can see on the right-hand screen, the fairing halves have deployed from the second stage as well. Just shortly after the landing burn begins.
Stage 1 landing burn.
As we just saw and heard, the stage 1 vehicle landing burn has begun. We also heard the shutdown of the second stage engine, but let's watch as Falcon 9 touches down for landing with this incredible view here.
Nominal orbit insertion.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
Really awesome views there. As you can see, Falcon 9 has touched down on landing zone 2. That is our 155th recovery of an orbital class rocket, including first stage landings for Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. Now we also, and great news, as you can see on your screen, the iSpace Series 1 lunar lander is now on its way towards the moon. Great view there. Our mission isn't over yet. As mentioned earlier in the webcast, we do have a ride share on today's mission. Lunar Flashlight will deploy around T+53 minutes. So sit back, enjoy the views, and we'll see you back here in another 5 minutes.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine ignition and liftoff. Liftoff of SWOT, our first global survey of Earth's surface water to study how this ever-changing resource affects our climate.
And there we get a nice view from the ground camera, and also we switch to the onboard camera.
Now, Denton, you didn't go outside to see the launch, but now we're feeling it inside here in the Mission Director Center, the rumble all around us from launch.
Absolutely. And now you're getting a good look at the onboard camera looking down towards the aft end of the rockets, and you can see the Merlin engines coming to life there.
And this room coming to life, really.
Yeah.
Lots of rumble going on in here. And we're soon going to hear that the rocket is supersonic, meaning it's going faster than the speed of sound, followed by Falcon 9 reaching what's called max Q, the moment of peak mechanic stress on the rocket.
Yeah. Look, we getting nice views.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
Just heard a call off for supersonic. Getting a good shot of looking at the onboard cameras
Max
there.
Q.
We just stepped through max Q.
Next call-outs are
back
going to come.
engine chill.
And back engine chill, which means it's getting the second stage engine ready to start. And so which means we'll be coming up on stage separation shortly, followed by stage 2 ignition.
We see this beautiful shot of all of the Merlin engines, all 9 of them lit up.
That's what 1.7 million pounds of thrust look like.
Lots of thrust. So the next callouts are going to come in quick succession, so let me walk through them really quick. So at T plus 2 minutes and 15 seconds, we're going to have main engine cutoff. That's MECO, meaning the 9 Merlin engines on the first stage are going to shut down. And then a few seconds after that, stage 1 and 2 will separate. Stage 1 will do a flip and do a boost back burn to orient itself back towards Earth for that landing here at the Space Force base.
And there we get a good shot of looking at the interstage. Basically,
MECO.
the camera's looking up towards the second stage.
Separation confirmed.
And there you go.
Live video of stage 1 and 2 separating.
And back ignition.
And there's a good look at the
Stage
MVAC
one,
ignition
respect,
coming,
startup.
the MVAC engine coming to life.
That's great. You are seeing the stage 1 booster do its flip. And now the engine bell of the MVAC engine lit up. This is a camera shot of stage 1 here, again on its way back to Earth. In just a couple of seconds, we're going to see the payload fairing jettison.
Fairing separation confirmed.
We just heard a call up for fairing separation, and there's a good onboard view of the SWOT spacecraft, and you can see the fairing is gone at this point in time.
Another camera shot here of the engine on the second stage continuing to carry SWOT to its intended target. We have a couple of camera views of this engine here, so you might see a couple of
Stage
different
1
angles.
boost shutdown.
Yeah, and then you'll see it cycling through the views of the stage 2 engine, and as we get closer to the separation, it'll go back towards the of stage 1.
It's about to land. How exciting.
Coming in for its landing burn there.
Again, the grid fins moving ever so slightly to make sure that it's coming down exactly how they want it to come down.
Yep, and you could see the pad coming into view.
There it is.
Landing.
Wow, those sonic booms.
And then the sonic booms. Trademark sonic booms.
Wow.
And good touchdown of the stage 1 booster.
Touchdown. Perfect.
Stage
Oh,
1 landing is confirmed.
so glad to see that live video. Again, sometimes
Yes.
we don't get it. That was amazing to see.
Yes.
And feel, really.
Yes, see and feel, and we get to use this booster again.
Yeah, yeah. Again, this is the 6th flight of this booster.
That's right.
Contributions from both the Canadian and UK space agencies.
Yep, and once separation
SWOT
occurs,
payload separation confirmed.
There you
and
go.
we got good video.
And we're hearing some cheering here at the Mission Director Center at Vandenberg Space Force Base. I'm sure the spacecraft team for Kness is also cheering in their Mission Control Center. You see the spacecraft floating away right now from the second stage.
And at this point, the launch vehicle's job is done. So the second stage will just basically kind of back off, move away from the spacecraft, and kind of take itself out of orbit, just so we don't have any junk floating around after it's completed this mission.
Now, it's just so great to see all this live video. I'm still just watching it amazed, just to see it. And this is a moment that so many people have been waiting for,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. As we mentioned before, a lot of these people have been working this mission for 20 years.
Right.
And now we're getting a good view of, you can kind of see the sun there from the view of the second stage, looking at SWOT floating away, and you kind of see the sun coming into view there. It's an awesome sight to see.
Now, as a member of NASA's Launch Services Program, Danton, how does it feel to be part of a program that facilitates so much great science?
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engines full power. And liftoff of SES mPOWER. Go Falcon 9, go SES.
Vehicle's pitching downrange.
M1D chamber pressure nominal.
Power and telemetry nominal.
Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, carrying the O3B mPOWER satellites to orbit. Here's a great view from the first stage, looking down at those Merlin 1D engines. Now, during the ascent, we've begun tilting the engines. That's called gimbaling. And we've begun actually moving horizontally away from the launch pad in a maneuver called a gravity turn. We're still mostly going up. As you can see, the altitude is increasing. But we're also starting to go horizontally away from the pad, and ultimately it's that horizontal speed that will get us to orbit. I apologize, I just talked over the call out there for max Q. That is the point of maximum aerodynamic pressure and the highest stresses on the vehicle during the ascent. Now, the rocket needs to go about 17,500 miles per hour horizontally in order to avoid getting pulled back to Earth. So we'll be continuing to accelerate the vehicle in preparation for several events we've got coming up in about a minute. The first of those will be main engine cutoff, followed by stage separation, and then second engine start number 1. Now, main engine cutoff is where we shut down all 9 of these Merlin 1D engines in preparation for separation of the 2 stages, and then followed shortly after by second engine start number 1. We heard a call out there for MVAC chill in. That means we've begun to chill in the turbo pumps on the second stage in preparation for full flow of the Merlin vacuum engine and ignition at about the T+2 44 mark. So again, coming up, main engine cutoff, followed by stage separation, and then SES-1.
Nico.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC ignition.
Great views. Left-hand side of your screen is looking up through the inner stage where the Merlin vacuum is sitting. You can see that's now a first stage view of the grid fins deploying. Right-hand side of your screen is that Merlin vacuum engine having started its burn. It'll continue burning for about the next 5 minutes. Next major milestone will be deployment of the fairing halves. Now that we're high enough in the atmosphere, we can actually jettison that mass and recover the fairing halves for use on a future mission.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Great shot. On the right-hand side of your screen is the top of the payload adapter. And on the, sometimes we can catch the fairing halves jettisoning away in this view on the Merlin vacuum. Again, we'll be attempting to retrieve these fairing halves once they fall back to planet Earth on a recovery vessel named Bob.
2, 1. Engines full power, and liftoff of Starlink 437. Go Falcon, go Starlink.
Falcon is pitching downrange.
With the incredible views that we've been seeing, you can see that Falcon 9 has lifted off from pad 39A, carrying our Starlink payload into space. Now we are throttling down the engines in preparation for max Q. On your left-hand screen is a view of the first stage. Again, the grid fins are deployed. This helps to steer the vehicle as it makes its way back to its landing zone. There are 4 hypersonic grid fins just between the inner stage and the top of the first stage vehicle. Again, these help guide the vehicle to landing zone. You also may see some bursts of nitrogen gas there that helps with attitude control on the first stage. And we are just about 30 seconds away from the entry burn on the first stage.
Stage 1 FTS has saved.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
As you can see, the engines have reignited on the first stage.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
And with that, the engine's shutting down. That concludes
Stage
the
1
entry
trajectory
burn.
nominal.
That concludes the entry burn on the first stage. Now, today's mission marks SpaceX's 197th overall launch.
Stage 2 FTS has saved.
And as mentioned previously, it's the 15th flight for this first stage booster, having previously launched 14 missions and breaking a new record flight for flight-proven boosters. Now we're about 45 seconds away from the landing burn beginning on the first stage. As a reminder, Starlink is a satellite internet constellation designed and manufactured by SpaceX to provide
Stage 2 terminal guidance.
high-speed, low-latency internet to people living in remote and rural locations around the globe. Landing burn coming up here in just under 10 seconds.
Stage 1 landing burn.
And there you can see that engine has ignited. Let's watch as Falcon 9 touches down on Just Read the Instructions.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And there you can see that Falcon 9 has touched down for its 15th landing for this booster. This marks our 58th landing this year.
Acquisition of signal, Newfoundland.
And 158th overall landing of an orbital-class rocket.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engines full power. And liftoff of Starlink 5-1. Go Starlink, go ahead.
Pitching downrange. Power and telemetry nominal.
You are currently watching the 60th launch of 2022 Falcon 9 carrying our Starlink payload out into space.
Vehicle supersonic.
Vehicle has throttled down in preparation for Max Q, which is coming up here in a few seconds.
Max Q.
Great news, we have passed through Max Q. That is the largest structural load that the vehicle sees during ascent. Now we are just about a minute away from a few events happening back to back. That is main engine cutoff,
MPAC is chilling.
stage separation, and second engine start 1. Now MECO, or main engine cutoff, is where we shut down all 9 of those M1D engines that you see lit up on your screen right there. Now that helps slow the vehicle down in preparation for stage separation, where the first stage separates from the second stage. First stage will make its way back down to Earth, scheduled to land on a short fall of gravitas today, while the second stage continues with the Starlink payload and igniting that second stage engine. We are coming up on those few events here in just a few seconds.
MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
MPAC ignition.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Now, as you may have just seen, we had MECO, stage separation, MVAC engine igniting on the second stage, as well as fairing deploy. Your left-hand screen is a view from the first stage, and you can see those grid fins deploying there.
Stage 1 landing burn.
And there you can see on your left-hand screen, stage 1 has lit 1 engine to prepare for landing on our drone ship, a short fall of gravitas.
Landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And Falcon 9 has landed. This marks our 159th overall landing of an orbital class rocket, including both Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy missions.
Nominal 1. Ignition and liftoff. We have Falcon 9 and the Arrow mission.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
M1D chamber pressure is nominal.
Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Vandenberg Space Force Base's Space Launch Complex 4 East,
Nominal power and telemetry.
carrying the Arrow C3 payload. Now, during ascent, we do tilt the engines, which is called gimbaling, and that turns the rocket horizontally.
Vehicle supersonic.
And that's what we call a gravity turn. And we are throttling down the engines in preparation for Max Q right now.
Max Q.
And there we have now passed through Max Q, or the maximum aerodynamic pressure. It's the largest structural load that the vehicle sees on ascent. The rocket typically needs to go 17,500 miles per hour horizontally in order to avoid being pulled back down to Earth and get into orbit. So you can keep an eye out on the stage 1 telemetry. We now have 6 events coming up here in quick succession. That'll be MECO, stage separation, stage 1 flip, SES1, or second stage engine start 1, the boost back burn startup on first stage, and fairing separation. And those events are coming up here in just less than 30 seconds. Again, that's MECO, our main engine cutoff, stage separation, stage 1 flip. That MVAC engine will start up on the second stage, and then we will have a boost back burn on the first stage, and then shortly followed by a fairing separation on the second stage.
MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC ignition.
Stage 1 boost back startup. Bearing separation confirmed.
And some great views of all of those events. Again, that was MECO's stage separation, stage 1 flip and boost back burn starting up. SES-1 with that MVAC engine on your right-hand screen lighting up, and fairing deploy. And there we've had the first stage.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
First stage landing burn has begun. Let's watch as Falcon 9 touches down for landing.
Landing leg deployed. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
Amazing view. Falcon 9 has touched down. This marks our 160th overall successful recovery of an orbital class rocket, including both Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy first stage landings. Now we are just about a minute away from SECO 1, or second stage engine cutoff 1.
Payload separation confirmed.
And there you can see live on your screen the Aero C3 payload drifting away from Falcon 9's second stage.